Lost in the scorching desert, Layla refused to share her last drops of water, leaving another to die. But the desert is unforgiving. What she took in greed, it reclaimed in blood. The desert stretched endlessly, a sea of golden dunes under a relentless, scorching sun. Layla, a young and athletic woman with long dark hair tied backpack, jogged steadily across the sand. She loved the desert's solitude, its raw beauty, and the way it made her feel alive. But today she had ventured too far. By the time she realized she was lost, the landscape was unrecognizable, and her phone had died. Panic clawed at her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had a small backpack with essentials: a liter of water, a few energy bars, a flashlight, a jacket, and a first aid kit. It wasn't much, but it was enough to survive if she stayed smart. Layla marked her spot with an X in the sand and began retracing her steps. The sun blazed overhead, and the heat was suffocating. She sipped water sparingly, knowing every drop was precious. Hours passed, but the dunes looked the same in every direction. Exhausted, she climbed a tall dune to get a better view. From the top, she spotted a faint glimmer in the distance, perhaps sunlight reflecting off metal. It was her only hope. She trudged toward the glimmer, her legs aching and her throat parched. As night fell, the desert turned cold, and the stars lit up the sky like a million tiny lanterns. She walked through the darkness, guided by the glimmer and the stars. By dawn, she was exhausted, her water nearly gone. The glimmer was still far away, but she refused to give up. She thought of her family, her younger brother Sammy, who adored her, and the life she wasn't ready to leave behind. On the second day, the heat was unbearable. Her lips cracked, and her skin burned under the relentless sun. She rationed her water carefully, taking only small sips. Late in the afternoon, she spotted a cluster of palm trees in the distance, a muddy water pound. With renewed energy, she hurried toward it. When she reached the muddy water, she dropped to her knees and drank deeply from the muddy water pound. She refilled her bottle, ate her last energy bar, and rested under the shade of the trees. For the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of hope. But the cluster was not the sanctuary she had hoped for. As she explored the area, she found remnants of a campsite. A small empty camp, an empty can, and footprints leading away into the desert. Then, she heard a faint, desperate voice. Layla followed the sound and found another young woman, Shalat, lying near the palm tree. Shalat was weak, her body covered in deep wounds, her clothes torn. She had been attacked by wild desert dogs and had barely survived. "Water, please," Shalat whispered with a trembling voice. Layla looked down at her nearly empty bottle, hesitation flashing across her face. Instead of helping Shalat, she clutched the bottle tightly, unwilling to share her precious remaining water. Greed took over, and she turned away, leaving Shalat in her dire condition. Without a second glance, Layla continued her journey, ignoring the desperate cries behind her. Fate, however, had other plans. Not long after Layla abandoned her, a group of travelers passing through the desert found Shalat. They gave her water, treated her wounds, and took her to safety. Meanwhile, Layla pressed on through the endless dunes, her body growing weaker with every step. Dehydration and exhaustion took their toll, and on the fifth day, she collapsed, unable to move any further. As she lay there, her vision blurred, and her strength faded. The same wild desert dogs that had once attacked Shalat emerged from the shadows. This time, there was no one to save her. The dogs descended upon her, and Layla's greed had ultimately led to her demise. Layla's greed cost her life, while Shalat, despite her suffering, was saved by the kindness of others. The desert had claimed its price, proving that selfishness leads to downfall, but compassion can lead to survival.